We were 25 years ahead of the curve on what worked and what didn't work.
They called it the Bryan hamburger diet, and I ate them and I was losing weight and nobody could understand it.
Welcome, everyone. We are so glad you're here for the first podcast of Insights with Marcia. We're just thrilled you're here. This is going to be an exciting time. We're going to have great stories for you. And I have one of the most exceptional, fun guests today that I'll probably ever have. And his name is Bryan McCullough. And Bryan, we have known each other for a couple of decades.
Long time.
Because just like you're seeing us filmed now, Bryan, for decades, did all my filming for a program I had called Naturally Slim. So we're going to talk some about Naturally Slim. We're going to talk about Bryan. He is just a weight loss miracle himself. And Bryan, we're so glad you're here today.
I can't thank you enough for inviting me. Anytime you call me, I'm going to be there because I just love spending time with you. And I'm excited about Insights with Marcia. I can't wait to hear about the wonderful stories that you're going to hear from a lot of people. And I know a lot of people are grateful to you, and I certainly am. I have been a Naturally Slim participant and lost a lot of weight. I was in the video business for a long time. That's how we met. And a number of years ago, I transitioned. I'm now a pastor at a church. And so my life certainly has not gone the direction that I thought it would. But I think a lot of ways you were instrumental in preparing me for the things that we're going to come across in my life, personally, professionally, and all the above. So I'm excited to get to thank you for that and talk about my story. But your story is incredibly fascinating, and a lot of people don't understand exactly your background. And so I would love to ask you some questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
Before we get into the personal, though, you and I met because of Naturally Slim, and Naturally Slim is such a significant thing that I'd like to ask you about that. So tell us exactly what Naturally Slim is and how it came about, because that's a pretty interesting story.
Yeah. So Naturally Slim is hard to explain because it's totally different from anything that ever is or ever was, you know, and we'll get into in a little bit like how my mom started it in 1977.
Yeah. Wow.
We were literally 25 years ahead of the curve on what worked and what didn't work. We were 25 years ahead saying diets don't work. And it's so funny because people today say diets don't work, but then they put you on a diet. Mm-hmm. And what Naturally Slim was we looked at thin people that had never had a weight problem, not thin people who had lost weight, but thin people who never had a weight problem, and studied what it was they did because they were able to eat regular foods and maintain the weight they wanted to be, which is really, you know, kind of what everybody needs to do, because whatever you do to take the weight off, we'll probably say that 100 times, you have to do it to keep the weight off. So we had to retrain people in how to eat. And we did this through classes because it really wasn't a diet where I hand you this sheet, Bryan, and go, okay, you eat X amount of calories or you eat one from every category. You know, I might not like one from every category. So we studied thin people. People loved us. We really spread the majority of the program to corporations. Corporations realized how much healthier we got their employees. And we worked through that. And it was so funny because HR helped employ or deploy the program. And they said, we love you. HR only gets complaints. And now they're like going, we love this program. Oh, I have to tell you one quick story. When I was first getting started in the corporate world, the people that were they were thinking about partnering with me, there was a certain company that did all the booking for a particular airline that's local. And they gave me a group of people and they gave this doctor a group of people. And the people in my class got to eat all foods. They could have their Mexican food, their hamburgers, whatever they wanted. And they were losing weight. And in the doctor's class, it was really more of a diet. And the people in his class kept asking if they could get out of his class and join the other class. It was fun. And it's not me. It wasn't my mom who started this. It's so smart. It's just common sense, getting to eat what you want to eat.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of what Naturally Slim is in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's
we'll
fantastic.
talk more.
Well, yeah, and I remember my mom actually was part of one of your early classes when you used to teach, small groups of 10, 15 people at churches and in homes and things like that. She was one of those.
Yeah.
And I know that there's great satisfaction in helping a group of 10, 15 people. At this point, you have helped millions of people.
Yeah.
What does that do for you? How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel so good because since I had taught some at churches or small groups, I really thought that was the way it was supposed to grow. But kind of how you said, life just takes turns and twists, which we'll talk a lot about that for both of us, that we don't think. My turn and twist was it had me teaching for corporations. Whereas I thought we'd be more of a model like, say, a Weight Watchers or a Jenny Craig or whatever, where you kind of like, here's a person you help, here's a person you help. What we realized when we worked with corporations was, well, I'll put it to you this way. I remember the first day we started 10,000 people in a day because we'd mail everybody out kits.
Wow.
And our shipper sent us this picture of a pallet of the kits we were shipping out, and it was 10,000 in a day. So it's like, serendipitously, it was just that it was made so that we could just reach multitudes. And yes, literally now millions of people have been helped by it. So yeah, wasn't my intent, but it's the way it went.
So were there any particular industries or organizations that you worked with? Is there a niche for Naturally Slim?
That is a great question. So what was so cool, and Naturally Slim still is out there today under the name of Wonder, WONDR. But way back when, we started really looking at all the groups, everything from people who made overhead doors to worked on railroads, who we had one of the what's basketball? NBA teams. We had one of the NBA teams. We've had search engine companies. We've had a couple of airlines, state and local governments, my old alma mater, college, university. We've had all kinds of. And we've noticed that it doesn't matter if it's blue collar, white collar, what it is, it resonated with everybody.
Right.
Because it was just things like eat when you're hungry, stop when you're comfortable, and then you can eat whatever you want to eat. You just follow those common sense rules. So it was so cool that we just got all kinds of clients in there.
Well, as you know, but not everybody may know, I was overweight. Part of my story is the Naturally Slim saved me, and I know we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the reason that helps me want to know more about your story is because I remember things that benefited me through the Naturally Slim journey, and I'm really curious how you learned certain things. And I remember you saying, here are some principles you follow that you gleaned from the food diaries that people kept. And even a couple of those, I remember you saying, we don't know why exactly this happens, but when we have so much data, we're confident telling you this is what you need to do. So tell me about the food diaries, particularly from so many people.
Yes. Didn't love it at the time because you would have a class of, let's say, 25 people. And it was a once-a-week class. And that once-a-week class, you taught your content that week. They went home and they practiced it all, and they kept a food diary of everything they ate. And then they'd come back, and I was usually the person by the scales, or they wrote it on their food diary, so I knew what they weighed, if they lost or not. I'd take them home with me, and I'd make notes, and I'd mail them back to them so they could start practicing before they got to class. And when you've done thousands upon thousands of food diaries where you're going, this person ate this, this, and that. They were hungry. They were not hungry. This is the portion. This is how slow they ate or didn't eat. They come back, you see their weight. It's so much better, I think, than a lab where you're feeding everybody the same calorie diet and you're measuring electrolytes, weight, fat, da-da-da-da-da. In fact, it would be really frustrating sometimes because there's just certain beliefs out there in the food world, in the dietitian world, in the weight loss world, that somebody said one day and we chose to believe it. But there's so many things I'd go, that's not so. If you looked at 1,000 people's food diaries, you would understand. And so in building the program, it actually started out because my mom did it in the 70s. She'd have people and she'd teach them everything and they'd come back and they hadn't lost weight. And so one day she goes, write that down. And then another day when water started becoming popular in the late 70s, all of a sudden people lost weight because they drink water. And we just had that right there to observe. So I'll never regret that experience. And it's helped me understand deeply what goes on for people to lose weight that I really hate that a lot of people who are giving the advice in the diet world haven't had that experience to truly understand it. I'll give you an example. In the early 80s, and I think before, we were already telling people sugar's not good for you. And I had dietitians that I think if they could have burned me at the stake, they would have. They thought I was awful for saying sugar's bad.
Yeah.
When today we get that. We were talking about the food pyramid way back then. We were talking about good fats, bad fats. So that's a long story on Food Diaries, but hey, it was like a training course for me to understand the overeater.
No, it's incredibly helpful data. I came across an advertisement from, I think, the 50s, maybe a little bit earlier, that was pushing sugar as a meal supplement. You want to delay being hungry, have a little sugar, right? And of course, we know so much better now. So you've learned all of this stuff, and you continue to learn as you are teaching the class. You're getting more data from people. Just in general, how are we supposed to eat? What did you learn?
Almost like a baby. Have you ever tried to make a baby eat something when they're not hungry?
I have 5 kids. Yes.
It's almost like they hold their mouth like this and go, and we would try to shove food in their mouth and they'd be like,
yeah.
So just eating when you're hungry. It takes the brain 20 minutes to know you're full. So if you eat in less than 20 minutes, you're probably going to overeat. And then it's realizing you have taste buds all over your mouth. So you really want to taste and savor food. I'd have people coming back to class and going, I love mashed potatoes. And I'd be like, well, yeah, so do I. And they go, oh, no. I never really tasted the mashed potatoes. I didn't think I liked them. And so being almost like the baby, my granddaughter took a bite of something one day and she just held it in her mouth. And I looked at her and I went, chew. Yeah. No, have you know, you've 5 kids, absolutely. They'll just hold the food in their mouth and just savor it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of getting back to the natural way we were set up to eat.
Yeah.
But the culture's so fast, you got 5-minute dashboard meals.
Yeah.
And it's saying, you know, I like to say I love food. I do love food. And if I love food, I'm not going to rush through that meal. I'm going to take my time and I'm going to savor it and enjoy it.
Absolutely.
So that's why people love the program is all of a sudden they got introduced to food. They didn't overeat because they were eating slowly and they enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, I had 5 kids and I've had new ones since I went through the program, and I've paid attention to how they eat, particularly our last child, number 5. They eat like you're supposed to, right? And we pick up these bad habits in our lives, I suppose, that change the way we eat or change our perspective on food. What have you discovered that people think about food that maybe is a negative thing or gets in the way of how we're supposed to eat?
So, you know, our world is really run around our beliefs. Everything we do is centered around our belief. You came into the office and said hi and gave me a hug. It's because your belief system is, I care about people. That's the way I do it. It's the same way with food. And every time I go to a restaurant and I sit down with that plate of food, somewhere along the line, I got the belief, if I paid for it, I got to eat it. Don't waste food. Clean your plate. Eating will make you feel better. All these different beliefs around food. And we're doing them all subconsciously. So that was part of the program. Just let's get back into what are our beliefs and our belief systems around food, because that is I say that's more fattening than a chocolate cake at the end. If you're full after 3/4 of the plate or 2/3 of the plate and you're eating the rest because your brain says there are starving children somewhere.
Right. Yes.
I better clean my plate. If you love Insights with Marcia and you want even more, I have something for you. Go to my Patreon page, and there you'll be able to watch ad-free episodes that come out early, bonus content every week, my personal show notes, and you may even have a chance to get your questions answered on the podcast. So for $5, $10, or $20 a month, we will keep this conversation going. So go to patreon.com/insightswithmarcia, patreon.com/insightswithmarcia. And let's have some fun. Let's keep the conversation going. I hope to see you there. But now I want to ask you some questions.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. Let me see here. I've got some really good ones. Okay. What led you to finally start the program? Because you knew me for a while.
Me for a long time. Quick history on me. I was overweight my entire life. Literally from the age of 2 on, you could not find a picture of me where I was not overweight.
Wow.
And I tried everything to lose weight. Every program. You couldn't name a program that I did not try to lose weight. And the only times that I ever had any success at losing weight was when I would essentially starve myself, just eat salads, and I would jog. And I hated it. Both of those things. I hate exercise. I hate salads. And you had been a client of mine for about 10 years, a long time. And we had done several iterations of your video series. And I remember at one point, we reshot. At that time, it was a 10-week course, 1 video a week that people would watch. And we reshot all of the videos over the course of about 3 days. And I remember thinking, because I just had this download of information dumped into my brain, every principle of natural sun, if I'm ever going to try this, now is the time. Though I didn't believe for an instant that it would work for me, because nothing had ever worked for me. I had been 100 plus pounds overweight my entire life. And so I still remember November 1st, 2013,
Wow.
the very first Naturally Slim meal that I did, and I followed the principles, did all things, and I went to a restaurant that I went to all the time, and I ordered what I ordered all the time. And then following the principles, when I was done, I had eaten about half of what I usually ate, and I felt as full and satisfied as I ever have. And I was blown away. I was blown away. And then about the next 2 or 3 weeks, I followed the principles, and I lost about probably 10 pounds. You know, you always lose a lot at the beginning, right? And you even talk about, temper your expectations. I couldn't believe how relatively easy it was compared to everything else that I had done. And in fact, after about a month, I got angry. I had a point where I was angry.
I remember you telling me that.
Much of my life
I was mad at you.
I was. So much of my life had been spent overweight when this is all that it took. And it was just an incredible turning point in my life. So that's how I started on my weight loss journey with you. But it took me 10 years of knowing you before I was willing to give it a shot. But I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Yeah. So how much have you lost?
I lost about 145 from my largest. I was 315 at my biggest. The first 50 of that or so was doing it what I call the stupid way, eating salad and running all the time. But I would lose and regain that same 50 pounds over and over and over. I mean, for 20 years I did that. And then when I started Naturally Slim, I lost 90 pounds in 6 months and have kept that off for over 10 years now.
Wow. Wow. That's cool. What was one of the most surprising things about the program?
The most surprising thing for me, after I'd had a history of doing every diet that you can imagine, was the freedom. I mean, it really was. You talked about people being able to eat whatever they wanted to. Anybody that was watching me lose the weight and that was close enough with me to see my life, they called it the Bryan hamburger diet. Because I love hamburgers. It's my favorite food. And I ate them almost every meal, and I was losing weight, and nobody could understand it. So the freedom, the flexibility, I remember very distinctly for my whole life, and I still wrestle with this, is that food has some kind of control over me. But for the first time, you gave me tools that enabled me to have some control over the food. And that changed the dynamic of that relationship. Mm-hmm. And unlike if you are an alcoholic, for example, you can cut alcohol completely out of your life. Mm. Well, if you're a sugarholic or foodaholic, you can't not eat, right? So you have to figure out a way to manage it. And the tools that Naturally Slim provided gave me that ability.
That's cool. What did your kids say about Daddy?
Well, so I've got 3 kids, and my third kid, who is now 14, he was, 4 or 5 when I was losing the weight. And I remember him being able to say things at the time, like we'd go to the parks and play, and he would say, Daddy, you can go in the tunnels with me now. You're not too fat anymore. And of course, kids have no filter, so he's not trying to be kind about anything now. But my older kids, they saw the transformation, and they didn't have quite as a reaction like the younger ones did. But what's neat for me now is now we've got a 5-year-old now who's number 5, and he was not a planned blessing. He just showed up. but he'll never know me as overweight.
Yeah.
And as someone that didn't plan on having another child later in life, if I was 300 pounds and I was in my late 40s having another kid, I just don't know how I would have the energy for that. I barely had the energy for that when I was 300 pounds in my 20s. And so the fact that I can be, I'm going to just get emotional, that I can be a better father to my little Joshua because of what Naturally Slim has given me is a gift that I could never repay. So I'm incredibly grateful.
Yeah. Well, you just said a second ago, you control food now. And one of my sayings used to be, I control food, it does not control me.
Yes,
because every time I sat down with a plate of food, I felt like, okay, the war's on. Let's see. I shouldn't, well, I always thought I'll say this confession. I gained the extra, I was already a little on the heavy side, and I gained the extra 15 pounds while off of college. I came back from college. Mom had developed the program. And I took it, and I lost my weight. And I was so grateful. I said, I will never let this knowledge go. I will help Mother with this knowledge. Because I said I would spend 90 to 95% of my time thinking about what I just ate, what I shouldn't have eaten, what I want to eat. I was consumed with food thoughts.
Yes.
And to me, just to get over being obsessed with food was the biggest gift.
Yes.
But when it comes to that give and take at the meal, see if this rings true for you. What I learned that was the biggest thing is, the biggest thing I learned was it takes 20 minutes to know you're full. Okay. And that's the size of your stomach. So, and most people go, no, it's the size of my stomach. So I used to say, I control food. It does not control me. And the way I do that is I've got to eat slowly.
Yes.
And when you eat slowly, you're enjoying it. And suddenly you can go, that hamburger doesn't even look that good anymore. Those French fries don't look good anymore. So that was the biggest one for me. How do you feel helps you? What's your key there?
Well, there's so many great principles that you get taught in Naturally Slim, but there are a couple that I remind myself of daily. And one of them is when I go to a restaurant and you order something, I always tell myself, I'm not going to let the 20-year-old in the kitchen decide how much food I'm going to eat.
I like that.
And so the food comes, you don't feel like you get to clean your plate, right? That's the reaction to that. And I also love the idea that you don't have to deny anything, you just delay it. You can eat whatever you want when you're hungry. And so that in conjunction with the difference between appetite and hunger, I will always have an appetite for a chocolate chip cookie.
Oh.
Doesn't matter if I just ate Thanksgiving dinner, right?
Yes.
But it doesn't mean I ought to eat it then. So I know I can have that cookie. I just need to delay and wait until I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And that's an example of how it no longer has a control over me. I am in control of the food. And that enables me to be excited about that instead of feeling guilty about that cookie that I want so badly.
Yes. I love that because I was the exact same way, especially when I was losing my weight. I'd go, okay, that bowl of popcorn they just set out looks really good, but you know what? I'm used to when I get hungry. And if I can wait an hour and a half, I can have it. Yeah. And I'm going to lose weight instead of gaining weight. And when you said the cookie, so I was just in Shreveport where my mom and dad are from yesterday. And my cousin actually has this place called Bistro to Go. And they make the best chocolate chip cookies. They're so gooey and chocolatey. And my daughter said, let's go get some of JB's cookies before we go. And then she said the perfect thing. We can put them in the freezer and eat them when we're hungry. Exactly. So it's just, when you were asking me the question, how do you do it? It's just, those are the things thin people do. And some of us are married to those thin people and have lived with them forever and never figured out what they were doing. Right. It's crazy. And I know you have a chocolate chip chip cookie history. What's that?
Well, a little bit of an addiction, really. No, it's just my favorite food. And I used to travel a lot for work. And so I would go around the country and everywhere I would go, I would try to find a local chocolate chip cookie and try it. And again, people would be surprised that, how can you eat all those chocolate chip cookies and stay skinny? And what they didn't realize was I was using the principles in order to do it. And part of the principles, of course, are to be careful with sugar. And so I am careful with that. But the ability to enjoy the creation that we've been given, the good things that are in it, not let them overwhelm us. I mean, that is an incredible gift that Naturally Slim teaches. And I like to tell people, and I talk about Naturally Slim all the time. I mean, even to this day, that it's essentially 10 to 15 common sense principles. You keep saying common sense. That if there were actually common sense, we wouldn't have a weight problem.
This is true.
But we need to be reminded of them and then change our lifestyles
Yeah.
to address it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, y'all. Just stay tuned because Bryan and I are coming back for several more weeks and exploring more of what was this Naturally Slim all about, because this is all about the new podcast, Insights with Marcia. And through the journey of Naturally Slim and through the journey getting to Naturally Slim, I really feel like I got a lot of insights and learned a lot of things. The road was kind of hard, and Bryan will tell you, knocked me upside the head a few times, but I've gained some insights, and I love stories like Bryan, and we hope to share more with you. So join us next week for more Insights with Marcia and Bryan.
This is the problem of having known each other for so long, is you can pull out the embarrassing things.
And she talked about one that was terrified of what she was going to do when she got off the weight loss medication.